I really like this photograph of the Airstream trailer. Yeah, it's such a charming photograph. It's very quiet and I think to a degree somewhat understated. The story behind the photograph is that, I had the idea of shooting some sort of a vintage trailer or something older that's been maybe somewhat restored, not necessarily spectacularly so. And I actually went around Los Angeles and looked at lots of trailer parks. Nothing really struck my imagination. Nothing really looked great. They're all cluttered and kind of funky. Then I sort of thought about, well, maybe I can go on Google Satellites, and I was looking at, trailer parks all around Los Angeles, and I found a couple places when I visited them, it still didn't really work. They just were not enough magic in the picture. Much less asking the people who own it, can I change the place and make it look nice and tweak it and, have you work with me for 5 hours. Seemed inappropriate. It is somebody's home after all. Then I thought, well, maybe I can take one of these trailers or something like this and put it out in the desert. And that seemed like a nice kind of contrast between this kind of cool looking, maybe rounded teardrop shaped trailer and the rough sort of environment of Joshua trees and mountains and skies and things like that. So I was working with that idea for some time, and eventually on the computer I found this place called Doug's Vintage Trailer Rental. And this is a guy named Doug who rents these trailers. He has several of them for himself, and he uses them for camping for himself, and he rents them a couple here and there for the movie industry or commercial or whatever. And I talked with him and I explained that, I don't want to spend a fortune. This is not a big Hollywood production. What I'm really trying to do is sort of photograph sort of Americana and lifestyle and, that sort of whole flavor. And it's not my intention to create a totally fake scene and environment. I really want to work with people who want to work with me. So we agreed that to make it easy and fun and not such a big production, that we can take his own personal trailer and just take it out in the desert. He lives in Hesperia. That's where we did the photograph. It's halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, which is basically all desert. So we just took it like not even a half mile from his home, right out in the desert out there, and set up his trailer and got some of the chairs from his backyard and those pink flamingos, which of course I love. And all this stuff is just his own personal stuff. And this is exactly the scene that he does when he goes camping. And I kind of created this little shot next to the Joshua tree and the fire and exposed for all these little pieces. And it was really a nice experience. Cold. Doug at one point during the photo shoot was kind of hunkered down in his truck with the heat going, because at one point it got to be like 40 degrees or a little colder at night as we're exposing the shots. It was winter in the desert, in the high desert in California, it gets kind of nippy. So it was a nice experience though. Two little things I would mention about the shot is that for me, it's not a photograph of sort of a Mutual of Omaha ad from the 40s on steroids. It's like a really incredibly great old photo. No, it's not. For me, it's a modern photograph of cool old stuff, not, a great old photograph. It's subtle distinction. If you look closely into the photograph on the right-hand side in the background and the shadow, you can barely make out this little silhouette of a satellite dish. That's sort of my little nod to modern technology, to help, if anybody cares other than me, but to help show I'm not trying to fake a picture. It's a modern picture of old stuff. So it's a subtle distinction, but for me it counts for something. Anyway, that's the photograph of the old Airstream trailer in the desert.